All right, we'll do it live. Fuck it, do it live. Hey, what's up, gang? It's Logan, the Melon Beer Snob. What's everyone up to? Happy Sunday. I'm I'm giving it a second to get it situated. Got my headphones in. I got music on in the background. One of the nice things about doing a solo stream is I get to play some tunes, and I get to control what is being played. So, of course, it's been all acid bath and related projects, and currently we're spinning Agents of Oblivion, the self-titled, the one and only Agents band. So this is actually one of the albums I'm most excited to talk about. We'll get there. We'll get there. But for now, let's let's keep it moving. You guys, let me know if the music is okay or if it's too loud. I was hoping to be able to hear on my headphones, but oh well. Sounds fine from my perspective. All right, gang. How's everyone's Sunday going? You guys doing okay? It's cool to have a couple people here. Fuck it, man. James, of course, was here from the get-go. Cheers, James. I don't know what everyone's drinking this Sunday. I've been having some alcohol-free beer. Though I'm about to get into the real stuff, because why not? I got to stick with the theme, right? Another NOLA band you guys should check out, Flesh Parade. Tony's been in. He got it right. That's why I'm a little late. There was beer everywhere. Cats everywhere. Absolutely lousy. Also, Wade, cheers, my friend. Hope you're doing good. And, yeah, Ryan, what's good, buddy? Good to see you. That's good. Good on you, man. I'm glad. I'm happy you're hydrated. I should be drinking water. I figure after the stream, I will adjust and try to get my life back on track before work tomorrow. So I've got about like 6 hours or something. So, yep. Wade's got it right. That's the big crux of what happened with acid bath. So, but yeah. Drunk cats everywhere and soon to be drunk Logans. But man, cool to be doing this on a Sunday, as I said. Now on to the real beer here. So with this being New Orleans and a very Catholic heavy city and acid bath featuring a lot of Christian imagery, I figured it'd be best to do a beer called Holier Than Thou, a double IPA. From the superb Urban South Brewery here in New Orleans. So, cheers to you guys. This is indeed a hefty one. We're talking like 8%. So, I will survive while I can, but if I start to lose my train of thought, you know what's going on. Yeah. Who dat? But anyway, we're not here just for beer and, tunes. We're here to talk about acid bath. So one of my favorite scenes just across the board has always been the New Orleans sludge metal scene. It probably started back when I was first getting into music and I heard Stone the Crow for the first time. That bluesy opening riff and melody just immediately hooked me. And the whole NOLA album by Down, just top-notch and superb. And then, of course, I continued to find bands, and it's such a unique scene where every band sounds distinct and separate from one another. Like, I Hate God and the nihilistic punk energy of them is not the same as, like, the more uplifting but riff heaviness of Crowbar. And then, of course, the band that I stumbled upon probably, like, towards the end was acid bath, and this was just a different kind of band entirely. Like something truly unique, like sludge for sure. But then at the same time, there was just so much going on here. So much, different influences from all across the metal sphere coming into albums like this one and the follow-up. Oh, Stan, what's up, man? Cheers. So I'll get to this later on in the stream, but I was at the first Acid Bath show on April 25th, and I met this dude, Stan, from fucking Denver, of all places. Flew out. Cheers, man. It was good hanging out with you, too. Hope to see you around again at some point. Overkill, what's up, man? Cheers. Yeah, so Acid Bath was mind-blowing. I think the first song and really my first entry point to them was actually Bleed Me an Ocean off of Pagan Terrorism Tactics. And of course, I want to hear everyone else's story. Like, what was your first, exposure to this band? What were your initial thoughts? I was immediately blown away by them, like, especially when I heard Bleed Me an Ocean. There was nothing out there like it. Such raw emotion, melody, but then also at the same time, there was just this intense darkness and menacing feeling to their music. And, the more I explored their music, the more that was apparent, if not even, a little overboard. So my first song from them was Bleed Me an Ocean, as I said, but I ended up finding an OG pressing of their debut, When the Kite String Pops, at a used record store. I know, because I was trying to figure out where I got this one from originally, but it still has like the residue from like the used record number where they would put the CD away and they'd have to go out and fish it when you bought it. So that's how I know. And this was probably around like 2010 to 2011. So this was relatively early on. And I was definitely immediately blown away. Gotta love the clown everywhere on this thing. Immediately blown away by just the intensity of this album. This was not what Bleed Me the Ocean was. Of course, there's like hints of it on tracks like The Blue and Cheap Vodka, but when you get to Finger Paintings, The Insane, and Jezebel, you're in a different world entirely. Let's see. Yeah, it was just cool to talk to people at that show. Often, most of them had stories like that where they would fly or, I just lucked out. I'm in New Orleans right now, and it was kind of right down the street from me. So one of the luckiest people. Was on P-Hub. I'm not sure if I know what you're talking about there, Ryan. You found their debut on P-Hub? But yes, Rotten Records for both albums, actually. And they have a mixed up relationship with Rotten Records that I will get into a little bit later. Ryan, that's fucking hilarious, dude. Did you stumble upon it? Like, were you looking for something else? It was there on Pornhub. But yeah, I'll talk. It's now's a good time to dive into what it was like being an Acid Bath fan back in the 2010s. Really, it was. Just searching up balloon porn, balloon and clowns, and stepmother. It's fucking funny, huh? Yeah, man. Whatever gets your balloons off is good with me. No kink shaming here. M85. Cheers, man. Yeah, it's cool that Prig Destroyer's open an opener for one of their shows. I think that's awesome, man. Welcome. You've come to the right place if you're new to this band. We will dive into a bit of everything. Definitely their albums, but then kind of like the backstory and history and stuff. But now, as I said, we're focusing on what it was like getting into this band. This band has probably had one of the most interesting stories I can think of any band. Like, we're talking, they only released 2 albums back in the 90s to smallish amounts of success. They did not go out on a high note when they broke up in 1997. In fact, it was very much a low note. One of their members died. Audi, their bassist, was killed in a drunk driving accident, and they kind of broke up on a very, very low note. And I know for a fact, not that many people were picking up what they were putting down. It seemed like, I mean, there's stories of them barely being able to sell out, or not selling out, barely being able to like make money at any of their gigs towards the end, of 1997. So this is very much different from the comeback that just happened. So that was the 90s. They broke up, kind of go their separate ways, drift off into different projects, and that's kind of it for Acid Bath. And myself, and I guess everyone else who kind of collectively stumbled into them in the preceding like 2 decades, we really had to find their music wherever we could. I definitely lucked into finding this in a used bin, but for the longest time, I did not own this, and I could not find this anywhere. I initially heard Bleed Me in Ocean on YouTube. It was like a lyric video. It was taken down, like, not too long after. And most of their music that would be uploaded to YouTube and various other sites would be taken down. And it does boil down to Rotten Records. Rotten Records was pretty rotten about their copyright laws, and they were extremely strict. Like, they didn't want this music getting out there for whatever reason. I should have dug a little bit deeper into like why they were so strict, but there was never any official rips up on YouTube. There was never even secondhand people uploading stuff. In fact, people would have to like hold a mic up to their record or CD as it was being played and then upload that. And sure enough, even those would come down. So Ryan saying that he heard, Kite string on Pornhub actually makes a whole lot of sense. Like, I bet I could see some Acid Bath fan being like, fuck it, I'm uploading it to the hub, and we're going to see if it's going to stay up on there. And I bet it did not. I bet Rotten Records tracked it down, in addition to all of the clown stepmom videos, and took it off of there. And yeah, for the longest time, I think it was hard to figure out how many people were actually into Acid Bath, just because there was never any official uploads or streams or anything like that. And then something happened. Rotten Records finally relented. I don't know when specifically, but within the past like 5 years or so, and it's been insane. The word of mouth for this band and just their unique style of music has just been really cool to watch. And it's not just the people who originally were around in the 90s. There's a lot of people my age or even younger. Fucking Acid Bath is big for Gen Z. Like, while I was at the concert, there was a whole bunch of fucking kids. Like, I've gotten to know a couple people in the New Orleans scene, and some of them are like in their early 20s, and they live up in Baton Rouge, and they drove down for Acid Bath, and similar just stumbled into like Scream of the Butterfly and Bleed Me in Ocean. It's just cool to have such cool to see a band that can grow so organically have this kind of comeback. And I mean, initially they were supposed to be at Sick New World, and then that got canceled, and then they announced the first New Orleans show, which I'll talk about a little bit more in depth later. But that was astounding. I mean, it sold out. They had to announce a second show that also sold out, and that was, of course, April 25th and 30th this past month. Yeah, and I just checked on Spotify because I was curious, you know, like, because similar to how Rotten Records would keep them off of YouTube, they were also not on Spotify for the longest time, similar to Tool. And then now that they're on Spotify, it's kind of amazing, their response. They have 400,000 monthly listeners, and a couple songs are over 10 million listens, with most of them at least being around like 3 to 5 million. Their most listened to song is, believe it or not, Cheap Vodka, and then I think Scream of the Butterfly, and Finger Paintings of the Insane and stuff. So it's insane to me that this band that I didn't think anyone really knew or cared about, and I'm pretty sure they all felt the same way, has come back, and they're huge. This is like one of the biggest events in metal in 2025. I'm worried I'm overhyping it, but I don't think I actually am, which is, pretty cool. It's just amazing for me as a fan to be able to see both sides of, them going from nothing to selling out like big venues. I mean, these are like 2,000 people venues and fucking cramming people in. So yeah, I mean, cheers to Acid Bath, and it's been cool to watch the comeback and then really be resurrected even bigger than what they ever dreamed of, what any of them ever dreamed of, and any of their other projects could have ever accomplished. It's so cool. So yeah, I kind of already did a couple of my questions and stuff. Let's see. Yep. They were coming out with a third album before everything went down with Audi. Yes. So I think now until really September, they're playing a show or two every couple weeks, it seems like. The next one up is Sonic Temple, which is, I don't remember where this one is. It might be in Kentucky, but it's pretty crazy how big they are. And I'm just excited to see them continue to grow and like them to progress as a band. I'm not gonna assume we're gonna get anything more, but a fan is gonna be a fan and gonna be hopeful about it. I'd see that. I've missed the current iterations of Pantera. I would love to see Pantera, even no Dimebag or Vinny. Bummer, but hell, we'll just have to see what happens. I would love for a true New Orleans sludge celebration. I'm talking Acid Bath, Crowbar, I Hate God, fucking Soylent Green, Exporter. Just a celebration of all things NOLA. I mean, that's basically what this past week was with the shows. So, all right, now let's kind of get into the history a little bit. We're finally ready to dive into the band and kind of get this video moving. I will say my goal for today is an hour and a half to 2 hours. We'll see how I do. It's already been 20 minutes. But it is a Sunday afternoon, and yard work still has to get done later. But yeah, Acid Bath. They were one of those bands that, when they started, it was like a couple different bands coming together and really bringing in both of their influences. I know all of the members were very much influenced by the thrash and more, blossoming death metal scene of the late 80s and early 90s. The main band that I'm thinking of is, of course, Golgotha, which features, let me see, I got to find it over here. It was somewhere. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Golgotha, which was Dax Riggs, Mike Sanchez, and Jimmy Kyle. So, of course, Dax vocals. Mike Sanchez was the lead guitar, and then Jimmy Kyle was the drummer. And then they partnered up with Dark Carnival, which was where Audie and Stammy were. So they combined forces, and sure enough, leads to Acid Bath. We get in the beginning they were definitely very much influenced by Black Sabbath, definitely some death metal in there. Knowing Sammy, there was 100% Celtic Frost. That guy is a Celtic Frost worshiper. He's got his own like tribute band that plays live, and if you ever get the chance to see him, please do. I believe it's Morbid Tales is the name of the band. And even other influences, like there's some black metal in here. There's absolutely like some Cannibal Corpse isms. It's cool, but then at the same time, there is just this New Orleans vibe as well. Very distinct, like just sludgy, bluesy kind of sound. And yes, the concert recap will be towards the end. I don't want to, make you guys wait, but you can skip ahead tomorrow, I guess. Yeah. So there we go. That was their formation, and I think a lot of the stuff, because Golgotha actually had a release out, and there's some songs that ended up being on the debut, When the Kite String Pops, which, of course, this came out in 1994, August 8th, 1994, to be exact. So this actually had its 30th anniversary last year. Crazy, it's been 30 years. Yeah, this, as I said, was my first album to actually pick up, but it kind of was a little bit tougher for me to get into this versus Pagan Terrorism Tactics. Like, this is a very dark and unsettling record. It's kind of brutal. It's really extreme metal at its core. Like, there's a lot of death metal on here. There is indeed some black metal at points, and lyrically and just compositionally, it's pretty fucked up. I mean, they did such a good job of bringing like a certain element of horror to this album, and the scary part is it felt real. Like, it felt actually dangerous, and like from lived experiences. Whether that's all true or not, I don't know, but I mean, the New Orleans scene is well known for its extremity of like living conditions and style from people who were in the scene, and I know Acid Bath were definitely no stranger to like this element. Yeah, the lyrics are fucking graphic as hell. Like, reading some of this shit is worse than like reading Cannibal Corpse lyrics from like Tomb of the Mutilated era, all written by Dax. Who, it's funny, we're currently listening to Dax's band after Acid Bath, Agents of Oblivion. Beautiful, haunting lyrical content. You would never guess that he wrote lyrics like on songs like Cheap Vodka. Let's see. I blew my last 5 on a cheap 5th of vodka. Gonna kill something. Oh, man. we're meat and that's it. So let's fuck it. there's so much. Like actually, finger paintings of the insane might be some of the craziest lyrics. Um, let's see. A chilling orgasm that tastes like cyanide. Her pussy bleeds sunshine, rabid for flesh, as each raindrop plunges to its death. Rape the mother, kill the father. Fuck, that's insane. It's dark as hell. Oh, dude, Cassie eats cockroaches. Takes the cake for most fucked up lyrics. So yeah, just so many different elements on here. I think Dax's vocal performance might be still my favorite part. So versatile, a lot more, harsh in delivery and intense, but at the same time, he's still playing with like the bluesy, grungier style that he would become better known for. I feel like you got songs like "Scream of the Butterfly" and "The Bones of Baby Dolls," and even on the more brutal tracks, he gets a chance to actually, sing cleanly, like on Dr. Seuss's "Dead" and "Cheap Vodka." Yeah, I guess to run through the track listing real quick, "The Blue," what a great opener. A fan favorite for a reason, definitely a highlight. A great just statement of what the band can do, because it really does range with that track. Um, I think for me, the first half of the album is just near perfect, really. Like "The Blue" through "Dope Fiend" is some of my favorite moments of like 90s metal. Um, Finger Paintings of the Insane, I already mentioned that song is crazy. Definitely a near top song. It features some very much death metal, but then at the very end, there's this like symphonic section, which does feel a bit black metal-ish. Like I wouldn't be surprised if there was some like, yeah, Mayhem, Dark Throne just coming in, bleeding in through this slower, like, you know, keyboard section. Fucking brutal. And then Jezebel is insane. It's, oh my god. Definitely some crazy guitar riffs on here. And I know I've already mentioned Cannibal Corpse, but the guitar riffing on here really makes me think of Tomb of the Mutilated and the Bleeding era Cannibal Corpse. There's just a lot of groove, just the right amount of technicality, but then at the same time, like these pinched harmonic sections that just make me think of some of those kind of riffs. Jezebel definitely has it, and come on, it's got the closing riff of all closing riffs, and you know, at the very end, where let me find the lyric. Fucking brutal. She was screaming bloody murder as they chop off her fingers. Jesus. Yes, this is the fist fuck song, I believe. I think I'm just making sure. Yeah, insane. And then my favorite track on here is actually Dr. Seuss's "Dead." That is the one where they dive into this like um, almost funeral doom style section right in the beginning, and then it just how it builds is phenomenal. You know, Dr. Seuss is dead, and then it just continues to grow and get heavier and heavier until it finally picks up into this just moshing speed that really sticks with you. And the absolutely best riff on the album comes in towards the very end of the song, where it's like the breakdown. Um, Man, what a fucking song! Dr. Seuss is Dead. One of my favorite acid bath tracks and a top song for the album. And then Dope Fiend is right up there too. Just lyrically, maybe my favorite lyrics. Oh, why do I feel so dead? Why do I feel so high? kill me, I'm a dope fiend. And then it just ends with, yeah, motherfucker, I'm high, and I'm grateful just to be alive. If that's not dark, you know, the the drugs are killing you, but god damn it, you feel so good, I guess. I yeah, love the songwriting on Dope Fiend and the lyrics, so that's up there too. Then we get to the my maybe one critique of this album. It's a mammoth. It's a long listen. 14 songs, an hour and 10 minutes. And around Dope Fiend, we're just past the halfway mark. You've basically already heard an album's worth, and there's still 6 more songs to go. I start to kind of not lose interest, but it blends together just a bit more for the final 6 tracks. Um, yeah, Stan, that's one of my favorite sections. And so yeah, the last 4 like more extreme metal songs, Tubabo Kumi, butchered that, God Machine, Mortician's Flame, and What Color is Death. They kind of blend in a little bit for me, and they're still like all top notch. And I was listening to this earlier today and enjoying every single song, but they're not the ones that I remember, you know. God Machine and the Mortician's Flame have some killer riffs that, once again, make me think of Cannibal Corpse. It's just, that's not why I listen to the album. I will say it ends on a high note. Fucking The Bones of Baby Dolls and Cassie Eats Cockroaches. Holy shit. That is insane. The Bones of Baby Dolls is a bit more of that like Scream of the Butterfly, like acoustic ballad, but it starts to build and it just does have this more haunting feeling. And then the darkest and most intense track on the album is Cassie Eats Cockroaches. It's unnerving. It's a little hard to listen to, actually. It's just got this very unsettling domestic violence kind of vibe to it. Once again, fucking Cannibal Corpse wishes they wrote lyrics like this. Uh, Cassie loves to swallow. The bleeding will not stop. Oh, yeah. I'm not gonna read anymore. And then there's like these sound clips that are just so unsettling, and I swear it makes me think of how Pig Destroyer ended up using sound bites in like their Terrifier and Prowler in the Yard era. Just it feels bleak as fuck. See, are those the samples on Cassie Eats Cockroaches? Because it's insane. I never realized that, but it would make sense. Uh, what movie? Wade, is it like Blue Velvet? And then hey, Axel, cheers, man. Fuck yeah, that's awesome. I would love to hear more about that. I did not go to the show on the 30th, but I watched some footage and it looked great. I would love to hear more about what you did and where all you guys went. Yeah, that that had to have been an impressive first trip to the city. So would love to hear more. Okay, yeah, lucky guess. Dennis Hopper's performance on that in that movie is off the chain. Yeah. So to wrap up Kite String, it is a monolith mammoth album, which should not be taken lightly when you listen to it. It's dark. It'll suck you into the darkness that it exudes. And yeah, it's just unique in extreme metal, and in music. I've never heard another album like this one. As I said, it does blend together towards the end, and it's not as easy to listen to as, songs I would rank or albums I would rank higher. That being said, it's still like a 9.5 out of 10 for me. Like near perfect. Would not really would not change a thing. So yeah, 9.5 out of 10. Cannot complain. So there we go. That was the first album. We're halfway through. That was easy. And so from there, 1994, we go 2 years. I guess it's a good time to have an intermission. I have one cat over here. This is the nice cat who likes to just sleep and not bother me. There's now a cat meowing and being a kind of an asshole at the door, and this is the one that seeks attention all the time. So give me a sec. Oh, Louis here. Yeah, and another call to the people who are still here and hanging out. Let me know, your favorite tracks from Kite String and how you would rank it. Wade also gives it a 9.5. Like, I think it sounds like we're have the same opinion on this one. Only con is the length. So now that Louis is here and all is well with the world, we can dive into the second album. So 2 years later, we get to Pagan Terrorism Tactics. Let me pull up my release date. So this one was also released on Rotten Records, of course. Came out November 12th, 1996. So towards the end of the year. What's always a little interesting and throws me off is the pagan is spelled like an old English way. Paegan. Always throws me off there. I'm now realizing I forgot to mention one of the more iconic parts of these album covers, and they were done by fucking serial killers. I've heard different opinions on whether the band actually wanted this or not, but it is what it is at this point, and it's added to their mystique and to their, the uniqueness and their trait as a band. So John Wayne Gacy on this one with Pogo the Clown. His album, his artwork is insane. It's actually kind of surreal to just have the sketches of a serial killer in your CD collection. I absolutely give them props for that. And then, of course, the next one is an album cover by Jack Kevorkian, Dr. Jack Kevorkian. And yeah, no, Wade, I actually agree with you. Kevorkian, he's a bit more of a tragic and more of like a social tale than anything, like a social critique of where we were, where we are, like the whole assisted suicide stuff. So the more unsettling piece is definitely this one. This one, I can sympathize with Kevorkian. I actually worked in senior care for close to 7-ish, 8 years, and yeah, I'll just say I can sympathize with it. So it definitely takes on a life of its own. The fact that they used album covers by these two controversial figures in American lore, if you will. Let's see. Stan goes for God Machine, Morticians. Wow. Okay. No. So you agree with me? Yeah. Yep. That's exactly my take. It gets towards the end of it. I have issues with those. What would you rate it out of 10? Or do you do rating at all, Stan? I'm a nerd. I love to rate shit. Yeah. So this one is a big change from this. It's not like a giant leap. They're still the same band. You can tell all the same members are still here, but at the same time, they've progressed. There's a lot of growth here, and it feels very natural and organic. I mean, the roots were already on this album with tracks like Scream of the Butterfly and Bones of Baby Dolls, and the more melodicism of the blue, but they just continue to dive into that sound, and it gets a bit more hard rock oriented at times, a bit bluesier, a bit more alternative sounding. I mean, this is like peak of the alternative era in the 90s. So I don't know if they were thinking they were going to get radio airplay for some of these songs, but some of the tracks on here are so fucking catchy that they deserve to be, at least on MTV or something back in the day. But that's a what if right there. Yeah, I think there's some other influences on here too. This is a bit more psychedelic sounding to me, and there's even some industrial on here too, which I will definitely talk about. Only a 10.666. Well, it almost got that prized 11.666 rating, but maybe another album has that. Yeah, as I said, so the extreme elements are a bit more dialed back in here. There's still some extreme death metal on here, still some just punishing riffs, but overall, and I'm curious if you guys will agree or think this is an off take. This is my favorite of the two. It feels more cohesive. It feels a bit like it flows better. It doesn't feel overly long. I'm able to get through it without any issue whatsoever. I want to play it again. So this is my go-to acid bath album. I listen to this one just a bit more consistently throughout the years. And as I said, maybe it's because I heard "Bleed Me an Ocean" first, and that song was just such an iconic piece. And just some of the songwriting on here is top notch and just gives me chills. Like spine tingling, goose flesh, goosebump, the whole works. These songs have that power, and it makes me want to return more often. So, of the two, this is the album that has gained my interest a bit more. Finally diving into the track listing. Be real quick. Like the Blue did on Kite String, the title track, Pagan Love Song, or I guess it's not a title track, but Pagan Love Song is just a perfect opener, and really just does a great job of showing how the band has changed. Like, it flexes this hard rock vibe and the more prevalent, the bigger prevalence of Dax's clean singing and this more groove oriented sludge metal kind of sound. The death metalism is not as prevalent here, and Pagan Love Song just does a great job of demonstrating that. I love the opening. Dying felt so goddamn good today. Was I ever alive? Well, it's hard to say. And then at the very end, it still closes on just a pissed off Dax lyric. I'm gonna cut you, motherfucker, God's cocksucker. Rolls off the tongue. Yeah, great opener with Pagan Love Song, and then Bleed Me an Ocean is probably one of my all-time favorite tracks, and it just feels so dark, beautiful, and punishing, all in equal measure. Like, it's a haunting song, just the way it opens, and then it's got the chorus, which Bleed Me an Ocean. It only repeats itself twice before kind of careening off into this interesting closing section. Just some vicious vocals too on it. Absolutely love it. It's their crowning achievement, in my opinion. It's one of my favorite tracks, and I will never ever tire of listening to Bleed Me an Ocean. It's the reason why I love Acid Bath so much. It and other songs like that, which there's a couple more on this album. Then from there, Graveflower, the great song too, a good just balance, and really does allow that more psychedelic feel of their sound to seep in, and a bit more dynamics here. But then with track 4 and 5, we're back, and this is why I really like the track listing. It does such a great job of balancing it out. And right after the quietness of Grave Flower, we're met with the extreme metal. It's back. Fucking Gab Soul. Just great riffs on here. Killer energetic moments. Some of my favorite Dax lyrics too. The skyscrapers look like gravestones from out here. I think it does a good job of painting like living in Louisiana and living in the shadow of New Orleans, because these guys actually were not necessarily from NOLA. They claim homes in Homa and in Morgan City, which are both like 40 minutes to an hour outside. And I'm sure they always felt like they were in the shadow of not just New Orleans, but there's a lot of refineries and like gas, like, just these plants that are all along the Mississippi River, because it's a big, industrial shipping area. And these refineries, they actually look like cities themselves, just because they got all these tall stacks producing smoke constantly. And it's a bit ominous when you drive on I-10 past like the swamps and you see these almost city-like looking places. So, who knows what he is referring to with some of these lyrics, but I think it does a good job of painting what living, not just in New Orleans, but in Louisiana, southern Louisiana could have been like. And then Locust Spawning actually really grew on me a lot as a song. It took me some time, but it kind of sounds like a Godflesh song. Like, it actually makes me think of Street Cleaner era, especially towards the end, where it just really slows down to a punishing grind, And both of these tracks are some of my favorite deeper cuts from this album. And then we get to New Death Sensation's great. I will say it's a bit of the track that kind of lulls the most. It's almost 7 minutes and a bit on the longer side. So if I were to trim up anything, it might be that song. But this is me nitpicking a little bit. Then Venus Blue is the other song, along with Bleed Me an Ocean, which just gives me chills every time. Like, and this is the song that should have been on the radio, should have been on MTV. It was just designed for a big audience, like people screaming along. There's a hook. It's a beautiful song. It's got this like really cool bluesy sway to it. Once again, man, the lyrics, how much more must we bleed her? I cut their throats while they slept. It's such an iconic, chorus, and I love Dax's vocals in the chorus, Like, yeah, I absolutely love Venus Blue. That's one of my favorite Acid Bath songs. And then from there, they once again do a great job of balancing out the flow of the album. We get a psychedelic song in Death Sensations, and then a catchy number with Venus Blue, and then the intensity and extreme metal is back with 13 Fingers. Holy fuck. Actually probably my favorite deep cut off of this album is this track. It's dark. We're back to like almost When the Kite String Pops level of, bleak, just nihilistic intensity. Lyrics on here like, I blew a load of Jesus into Mary's hole. Oh, holy shit. Oh, wait, that's on Cat. Wait, no. Yeah, that's right. Sorry. But, yeah, fucking dark as hell. He's screaming, mutate, insectile. I kissed a girl with 13 fingers. Fucking awesome. Definitely one of my favorite songs on the album. New Corpse also does a great job of, still bringing the intensity and making the album close just a bit more energetically. And then finally, one of the reasons why this album is my favorite of the two is it just has the balls to close on Dead Girl. A fully acoustic number with just, guitar and Dax Riggs singing. It's stunning. And it's just 7 minutes of Dax just singing his poetry, basically. And it's haunting. It's beautiful. It's haunting. The lyrics are beautiful and haunting. Some of my favorite lines from it: "When death sleeps, it dreams of you." And then also, "The sound of the ocean is dead. It's just the echo of the blood in your head." I absolutely love it. I mean, yeah. So it's the elements that make this album different from Kite String that I really love the most. It makes this my favorite of the two. The peaks are higher for me. The songwriting and the album flow feels a bit more focused. And as I said earlier, it's just an easier listen. So I really have no complaints. I could get nitpicky with some of the songs on here, which is why it's not a perfect 10 out of 10. But like, this is a 9.6 to a 9.75 out of 10, Crazy how good it is. And crazy that this is how they ended their career. So there you go. For the time being, at least. There you go. 2 albums. I'm curious of your guys' takes. What's your ratings? What's your favorite tracks on here? I've already heard from Stan and Wade that this is the preferred album. I am surprised, honestly. I thought, people would. To me, the popular fan take is that Kite String is the better of the two, and that this one struggled a little bit with the quieter songwriting, and the more ballad-esque and reserved kind of take. But I don't know. I'm surprised we got 2 people, going for this one. So yeah, I mean, they're both near equal. Like, this is just a bit above When the Kite String Pops. So, well, there you go. That's that's their 2 albums. So I've actually finished talking about the discography in under an hour. Amazing. But of course, we all know that's not where this story ends. It keeps going for a bit, and I intend to explore the whole Acid Bath saga. And on that note, we're gonna keep talking Acid Bath. Let's see. I will say another takeaway, and I don't know if this was a clue of what was going to happen to them, like if they were already leaning towards breaking up, but there is a certain yin and yang to the Acid Bath sound. There always was, and I think it's very prevalent on pagan terrorism tactics. There's these 2 forces that are almost at odds with each other, like kind of pulling each other apart a little bit. And I really think it's Sammy and like Dax and sorry, who's the other guitarist again? Mike. Like Sammy's over here, like trying to be as extreme and metal as possible, and then you have these other influences seeping in from Dax and I guess Mike as well. And I don't know if they were all on the same page at the end of Acid Bath's career, And I say this because of what happens next and what happens after. But it's just interesting to hear, just the 2 extreme sides of their sound on this one. The extremity of 13 Fingers with the beauty of Dead Girl. It's crazy. So, but from there, unfortunately, tragedy strikes in January of 1997. So only a couple months after Pagan was released. Bassist Audie Petre, sorry, but he there was a drunk driving accident, and him and apparently a couple other members of his family were killed. Unfortunately, I believe there was only his sister survived the accident. It sounds awful, and of course, that really put a dink, or really hurt, probably some deep trauma for the band and their members, and yeah, they did play other shows after his passing, and apparently their last show was April 25th, 1997. It was up in Shreveport, which, for those who are aware, Shreveport is like the most north you can get in Louisiana without either being in Texas or Arkansas. So it's a little bit. I've never been up there, but it seems a little bit in the middle of nowhere. But anyway, I know they did not play for a packed house. The roster of the bands was Crowbar, Floodgate, and then Acid Bath. And they didn't even sell enough tickets to get paid that night. So the promoter didn't pay them, and that was it. Like, to me, it's insane that this is how this band ends. They end with not getting paid, with having one of their members, no longer with them, and probably they were just a broken band at this point. And it makes their comeback all the more surreal and just triumphant to me that this was the final point for them. So, yeah. From there, Acid Bath broke up and drifted their separate ways. And this is why I, feel like there were these two opposing forces pulling, the band apart, kind of. Because Sammy went one direction and Dax and Mike went a very different direction. And they're the opposites. They are totally the exact opposites of one another. Like, Sammy embraced the more extreme and dark elements of the Acid Bath sound sonically, not lyrically, but sonically. And Dax continued to explore something a bit not metal, a bit less metal. And here I am. I'm jumping ahead because I want to talk about Sammy's contributions first. But this is currently what we're spinning, and it's winding down. So, Agents of Oblivion. For those of you who know this band and this album, it ends with clips from the movie Gummo, and that's what's playing currently. It's a bunch of kids, saying slurs and shit. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch up the music here. And I wanted to play something like Goat Horror or something a bit more metal oriented, but I'm worried that I might get copyright struck and the sound might be a bit too loud. So we're gonna do another Dax project. Dead Boy and the Elephant Men, for those who know. We'll see if this one plays. It's kind of scratched. But yeah, stands on it, man. I mean, yeah. Yep. I think they were already drifting, and I don't really know if Acid Bath had stayed together, what their next album would have sounded like, As I said before, interesting what if scenario. So yeah. Good, we're playing. So yeah, we're listening to Dead Boy and the Elephant Men, We Are the Night Sky. More solo Dax stuff I encourage you to check out if you can. I'll talk about this more a little bit later. So the next portion of the stream, I'm going to be talking about the side projects that came after Acid Bath, because to me, they're just as interesting, if not more so, sometimes, than the actual two albums by Acid Bath. So first, on to Sammy. I want to start with him because he goes the more metal route of the two. Like, I think he really was the influence that made Acid Bath as extreme metal as they were, and kind of championed them in the metal underground and seeing him go off into goat whore, especially, kind of proves that. And he wrote some great stuff with goat whore. My favorite stuff that he actually did was with Crowbar, believe it or not. So he had a 3-album stint with Crowbar in the late 90s. Let me see. Of course, this is my favorite Crowbar album, one of my favorite all-time albums, Sonic Excess in its purest form. But he also did Equilibrium and Oddfellows Rest as the guitarist. And some of the guitar riffs on here are just haunting and crushing. Like, one of the reasons why I like this album so much is because there's a balance between the more like hardcore knuckle dragging riffs and something a bit more atmospheric and haunting. You get songs like Repulsive in its Splendid Beauty and Through the Ashes. Those are like haunting, mesmerizing songs, and I definitely think Sammy's influence can be felt on the Crowbar material. And look at him there, repping his Hellhammer. I mean, I'm telling you, Sammy's a fucking true cult, diehard, like classic 80s metal guy, like death metal, black metal, the fucking works. You gotta love the, I mean, I'm sorry, I know this is not a Crowbar stream, but they're another favorite band of mine, and any chance I can talk about this album. Favorite band photo. Sun's out, guts out. So yeah, Sammy definitely was killing it with Crowbar. But from there, he partnered with Soylent Green members to do Goat Whore. And yeah, Goat Whore was one of those early bands that I kind of first got into, like getting into extreme metal in the late 2000s. They were an easy band to kind of find because they're on Metal Blade. They're called Goat Whore. If you're interested in, bands that are a little bit on the edgier side, they're one of the first bands you look to. I mean, and just their lyrical content being what it is, the fact that Sammy's a Satanist and stuff, it's great. Dude, Stan, cheers, man. It's great to have you join in, and yeah, man. Hope to see you again sometime soon, and yeah, thanks for joining, bud. Yeah, so Go Whore, they are unfortunately one of those bands where I had a couple of their albums back in the day. I had a run of 3 of their albums, and then I ended up selling them. So I kept one, which I'll show shortly. But the first album I actually sold, or I actually purchased from them, was let me see if I can find the right screen here. Oh man, we'll just start here. All right. So the first one that I found was Carving Out the Eyes of God. This album was another used bin find, and just the artwork being what it was, fucking badass. Like, look at this thing. And of course, it opened up with Apocalyptic Havoc. So that song, totally killer. And then, of course, let's see. One of the reasons why I did end up liking this one a bit more also is that it felt a bit more atmospheric too in nature. Like it had some songs that were a bit more brooding and haunting and just fucking badass. But then at the same time, it also brought the riffs. Like, Sammy is a riff king, and there's some great tracks on here. I also owned Blood of the Master, or Blood for the Master. this was the first album that came out when I was getting into, extreme and go whore, I guess. So this one was an early pickup as well. Probably the least exciting of the ones of theirs I've heard, but it's still good, and I'm bummed I sold it. Honestly, if there's any parting lesson I can give, never sell any of your music. If you really went through a phase of liking it, it all comes back around. I probably sold 50 to 100 of my CDs back in the day, and probably made 30 to 50 bucks off of it. I bought what I needed to buy at the time, but I'm still rebuying those albums that I sold. So yeah, fucking gonna have to find these good horror albums again. Of course, the one that I did keep was Constricting Rage of the Merciless. Awesome album. To me, this is their best. Came out in 2014. Some of the best riffs, and catchiest songwriting, And then at the same time, I think they experimented and, did more with their sound than on previous stuff. Like there's some Death Doom on here. There's some more stoner style riffs too. But then there's also the straightforward like Celtic Frost worship songs like FBS, Fucked by Satan. Bearing Teeth for Revolt. Man, my favorite tracks though are Cold Earth Consumed in Dying Flesh, Unraveling Paradise, and the final song, Eternalize This Hidden Savagery. Yeah, great song. So there's the Sammy stuff. And then I want to talk about Dax and Mike now. So they also went their separate way and very much just went into kind of just alternative rock, like psychedelic, bluesy rock and roll. And I feel like that's always was an influence of Dax. And, I don't know how much of a metalhead Dax was. I mean, obviously he was, but like during Acid Bath's career, I don't know if he was an extreme metalhead in the same way Sammy was. And the fact that they went from Pagan to this album, Agents, tells me all that I need to know. And this is gonna be my big hot take of the night. This is actually the best album I will be talking about. I like this Agents of Oblivion album more than I like either of the Acid Bath albums. I mean, obviously we're just talking, by a hair, because I still gave both of the Acid Bath albums 9.5 out of 10. But this is about as close to a 10 as you can come without being a 10. And this is a hard to describe sound. Swamp rock, sludge rock. It's just fucking haunting. It's fucking beautiful. Some of my all-time favorite songs, period, are on here. It's just beautiful music. Innsmouth, track about Cthulhu, I believe, coming out, but it's a haunting opener and just gives me chills. Yeah, when they really do just dive into the slower, sludgy swamp side of their sound, it's haunting. It's beautiful. It's some of my favorite music, just period. Innsmouth, Phantom Green, The Hangman's Daughter, Ladybug, Wither, Anthem for This Haunted City. Just top-notch track after top-notch track. I love it. And yeah, if you're going to listen to any album, if you've already heard Acid Bath and you want to know what direction to go, this is the one you should check out. If you haven't heard Agents of Oblivion, please go listen to Agents of Oblivion. This is like a 9.9 out of 10 for me. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of how it ends with Big Black Backwards. Like it's just a bit more of a slower song, and then it fades out with that clip from Gummo, which is a bit hard to swallow. But beautiful album, haunting album. They even do pick up the tempo of the tracks too. Slave Riot and Ash of the Mind are two songs that are a bit more of the straightforward hard rock side and really do bring kind of a punk energy to it. And then I want to just mention one more time The Hangman's Daughter, probably one of my top songs of all time, period. It's beautiful, it's haunting. The lyrics are incredible. I have no idea what the song is about, but yeah. I'm gonna leave an ugly skull when I'm gone. Aren't we all? And one more tie-in. I keep forgetting, you know. The album name and the band name comes from a line of the previous album, Pagan Terrorism Tactics, where, you know, it's one of the crazy interlude tracks where Dax says, "The agents of oblivion descend upon the sane, caked with mud and mother's blood." It continues on here. So yeah, from Agents, it's odd. It was just a one album, you know, just Dax and Mike, and they did have, you know, a drummer and stuff, but one album, and then Dax splintered off again to form Dead Boy and the Elephant Men, and they released two albums as a band. It's just Dax and the drummer. I forget her name, but I'm gonna pull this up real quick. Because the first album is actually the one I do not have, and I would love to get it. It's if hell what is it? If hell is real, then I'm lucky. If this is what is this? Yeah, if this is hell, then I'm lucky. Here, I'll show off the. Fucking really a cool album cover. I've actually had never listened to this until earlier today. You know, the stream. I was like, man, I gotta finally give this a spin. And it's good. It's dark. It might actually be darker sounding than Agents of Oblivion, and maybe this could be the closest to Acid Bath. I don't know. I'm a little bit torn. I still think Agents might be a little bit closer, but this is a beautiful, haunting album. I don't know if I would say there's any metal elements on here. There's definitely some metal elements on this, but here there's not. I'm not going to comment any further as I'm still kind of digesting it, having only listened to it once. But you know, it takes time. And then after that, so that was 2002, and then in 2005 they released one more album, We Are the Night Sky. And I'm going to use this as a quick bathroom break because, you know, the one side effect of beer is you got to piss. Thankfully, I got music in the background, so we're going to turn it up. Sorry, it's this album. Kind of fits. A bit more acoustic and quiet, so bear with it. Show me mercy. Ghost of brother at my head. Yeah, wait, I'd say either David Bowie or, I definitely hear people say um, Jim Morrison, of course, Van Morrison. All right. So yeah, this album and really the Dead Boy and the Elephant Man stuff has always been a bit more like alternative and indie sounding, like almost a little bit too much so for my taste. Like I do like it, and I think I probably could grow to like the first album a bit more than this one. But this one especially sounds like a indie rock band, more so than anyone who was ever in Afterbath. Of course, the vocals are still here. Tracks like "Stop I'm Already Dead" is just an iconic song, and you should really give that one a listen if you haven't heard it. Um, but there's other cool albums here too, like "How Long the Night Was" is a good, more ballad-esque song. Track 9, which I think is going on right now, "Misadventures of Dope" is like a fun down tune track, and Evil Friend," good too. So there's some fun like rock songs on here as well, but it just keeps this more mid-paced indie, you know, element to it than what I would be used to. So here we go. So two albums with Dead Boy and the Elephant Men. See, that's fucking cool to hear, Wade. I didn't realize that. I know of it. I never watched it. It might have been Canadian, but it featured "Stop I'm Already Dead" as the theme song. It was actually one of my wife's TV shows, and like there was one time I was just she was watching it, and I was walking by, minding my own business, and fucking Dax Riggs is playing. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? How do you know Dax Riggs? And she's like, who? And it's just the theme song of the TV show. So I'm I'm curious if this is like a bit of a success for Dax, like interest wise and financial wise, but then at the same time, they only did two albums, so I wonder if he also got a bit of a if he's just a bit of a he gets the itch to do something different. Like he doesn't want to be put in a box and have to form a certain style, and as soon as people expect a certain style, the desire to change it just crops up. I I would just be curious. So yeah, from there, Dax finally does his own solo thing, which is just Dax Riggs. And for me, I've known a couple of the albums for you know many years, but just recently did I finally check out the debut Dax Riggs album. Let me pull that up real quick. And sorry if you were just expecting this to be an acid bath only stream. Part of my goal with this was to highlight, just how expansive the catalog of the members of Acid Bath is, because it's a lot more than just two albums. And I think if you are a fan of Acid Bath and the music they put, there's a big chance you'll enjoy some of the music by Dax, and of course, definitely by Sammy. But here, their first one was called, or the first Dax solo album was called "We Sing of Only Blood or Love," and this is one I only found within the past year, and I've really fucking enjoyed this. It's Here we are. Interesting album cover. Bloody, bloody mouth over here. It's yeah, it's cool, and I think to me the reason why I do enjoy this album so much is because it is so diverse. The variety is insane. It goes everywhere from like Agents of Oblivion style, like swamp rock, to the more indie tracks on here, that make me think of this album by Dead Boy and the Elephant Men. But then it still all feels cohesive, and there's just some really just cool numbers here. And the songs are all really short, so it's like a fun album to get through, and it's just like all these different ideas and vibes all within it, and it's not a cohesive experience, but it also works as an album. I really just enjoy the eclectic nature of it, and yeah, I this could be or it would have been my favorite of the 2 Dax Riggs solo albums, up until this year. So, the other one was, Say Goodnight to the World, and this one I actually heard back when it first came out, because this one came out in, I believe, 2011? Let me look this up. And this album, Say Goodnight to the World, is a bit more straightforward. It feels more cohesive as an album, like, it's not as off the wall as, We Sing of Only Blood or Love, but then at the same time, it feels a bit safer. Like, it's just a bit more, you know, blues rock, a bit more indie rock, and I kinda miss the variety and the eclecticism of, We Sing of Only Blood or Love. So, yeah, this one came out in 2010, and great songs on it. Title track, "Say Goodnight to the World" is a great opener. "I Hear Satan" is dark and brooding. Um, "Heartbreak Hotel," cool cover, kinda bleak, and then, you know, just cool stuff all the way through. It's just if I had to choose of these 2 Dax solo albums, it would be the first one, you know? I think that Wade also gets it. And then from there, it's funny how it all works out, but in the same year that Askabath make their triumphant return, Dax Riggs also makes his triumphant return. So his last recording was indeed in 2010 with "Say Goodnight to the World." And here we are, 15 years later, Seven Songs for Spiders comes out. Guys, if you're a fan of Acid Bath at all, or Agents of Oblivion, or definitely Dax Riggs, please check this out. This might be or this is my favorite album of the year at this point, where we're sitting, in in May. This is the album to beat. It's as it says, it's 7 tracks, only 28 minutes, but to me, it kind of fixes a couple things that I've been missing from Dax since Agents of Oblivion. It all feels cohesive, like the Agents of Oblivion sound, but then at the same time, it's dark and it kind of abandons the more indie, like, folky element to it, you know? This is just straight up, like, kinda rock to hard rock at times, and the tone is swampy, the guitar tone is, like, bleak and drenched, the bass is just as heavy as the guitar, and it just has such a haunting and beautiful sway to it. So, Seven Songs for Spiders to me is a triumphant comeback, probably my favorite Dax Riggs album outside of Agents of Oblivion. Um, I've listened to this tons of times since it came out, kind of at the beginning of the year. If I were to get into list off a couple tracks, if you're gonna hear anything, honestly, the opening song, Deceiver is a good place to start, but Sunshine Felt the Darkness Smile, Who's for You Know Who, and Ain't That Darkness are great tracks too. So, man, check out Seven Songs for Spiders and just know that Acid Bath not just Acid Bath. Like Dax Riggs and his musical output is worth checking out as well. So yeah, definitely check this one out. Evan, cheers, man. I was wondering if you're gonna pop in. I tell me your take on the first show. It was cool. I would love to hear what you thought of it. I know you were up front, I believe, and yeah, I'm about to dive into the show experience. So there we go. So that was kind of what everyone was doing musically up until the point. You guys all right? Sorry, cat fight. Um, so that takes us to the reunion, which I'm not gonna try to speculate too much. It's not for me to say or to like pretend what I know goes on in the camp of Acid Bath. But thank you, Sammy. That's all I'm gonna say. I feel like Sammy has been the person who worked to help make this happen. Like just from interviews and stuff I've seen throughout the years, like leading up to it. From his perspective, the doors always seemed open. So I'm 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 sold that he definitely had a part to do with it and maybe helped to bridge the gap between the members. But you know, regardless, it takes all to make something happen. So thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Dax. Thank you, Mike. And cheers to the other live members. Which yeah, let's kind of get into that. So um, with the live lineup, it was, as I said, the original members of Dax, Sammy, and Mike. And then to round it out, I love just New Orleans coming together. Shane from Crowbar steps in for bass duties, and then Zach Simmons, who plays drums for Goat Horror, stepped in that regard, and they both did great. I have only good things to say about both of these musicians. Zach, especially, follow him on Instagram if you can. Hole in the fucking sky is his name. Fun guy to follow. A good look into the New Orleans music scene and I guess kind of the acid bath reunions as well. Um, yeah. So as I said, initially we're going for Sick New World, but that didn't happen. Thank God, right? Because that led them to announce the two sold out shows at New Orleans, April 25th and April 30th. Like, yeah, I'm appreciating your input, Kevin. Yep. 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 This was a big concert. This is probably one of the biggest concerts, if not the biggest concert I've ever been to. You could feel the tension from everybody, the excitement, the nervousness, the anticipation of waiting for God knows how many years. I mean, waiting in line. Like this was one of those shows that I showed up as soon as I could. I started waiting in line like 2 hours before doors, which for me I usually just roll up like as the doors open, if not like a little bit later. But waiting in line, you met people from all different, all different ages. People who had seen the band back in the '90s. People who had just found the band within the past year, and people, of course, from the New Orleans scene, and then people not. As you know, for example, Stan, who was in the chat earlier, flew out from Denver, and he was my kind of my concert buddy for the evening. It was cool hanging out with Stan. And I know for a fact there were people from overseas, like Britain and France and stuff, that were there, and of course, all over the United States. During waiting for um, Asabath to come on, one of the dudes standing around, where we were at in the venue was from Wisconsin and had seen them like back in the early '90s, and flew out. And I know earlier in the stream there was someone who made a trip from Texas up to see acid bath. So yeah, exactly. Fucking, uh, it was it was amazing. And I will say it was a very heavy show, and I'm not even really meaning like sonically, just the scope of it. It wasn't a perfect show. There were there were some issues. They had to restart two different songs, and there were definitely a couple mix-ups. But to me, it all added to the experience. I know, Evan, you mentioned it. I felt it too. You could feel the tension coming off the stage from the members. Like, um, this was their first show together in 28 years to the date, actually. And this was also the biggest show. I mean, I told you earlier in the stream, I mentioned the last show that they were all a part of was one up in Shreveport where they didn't even sell enough tickets to get paid. So it was. I doubt that Dax or Mike have ever really had an experience with this size of a crowd. Like, it's kind of surreal to think about. They disappear and then come back to the biggest show of their whole career. Like, I can only imagine the nerves and just the excitement, the emotions, and it really rolled off of the stage and into the crowd, and you know, I felt it, and it ended up being a triumphant night, and it was just exciting and fun to be able to see these musicians back on stage again. I have to let my cat out. I'm basically wrapping up though. Let me see if I can get through this. Um, so real quick, my my buddy over here, Evan, who's in the chat, he did have the chance to grab a set list. Let me see if I can pull it up over here. Yep. So this is the set list right here. Opening up with Tranquilized was just an awesome way to open the album and show that they're paying tribute to When the Kite String Pops. And then from there, they know what the fans are about. Bleed Me to an Ocean, Great Flower was a cool deep cut, and then Bones of Baby Dolls. It's worth it just to go to see the live version of you know Bones for Baby Dolls because um, they touch it up a little bit. They make it heavier. They intentionally liven it up. Like it has this epic like electric guitar outro that really just seals the deal. And then they go into New Death Sensations and Venus Bloom, which I never thought they were going to play either of those tracks. Honestly, that was one of the bigger surprises of the evening is that they played either. New Death, as I said, there was a bit of some issues on start it, and I think it's just because it's such a different tempo than like the more extreme stuff. It requires a bit more of a step back and quieter approach, and they still pulled it off great, and I think it fit very well in the set. Venus Blue, as I said, I didn't think they were going to play that. Gave me chills. Absolutely ecstatic that they played it. One of my favorite Acid Bath songs. Yes, it's the finger picking. It's the finger pick section in the opening. And I think Mike was definitely experiencing some nerves, and you could really feel it during it. And it did make the performance very genuine and honest. And I absolutely agree with your comment earlier, Evan. Um, Dude, of course they had to play, "Screaming the Butterfly," great song. happy they played Pagan Terrorism Tactics, and absolutely blown away that they closed with Dr. Seuss's Dead. Holy shit! This is so the one thing I want to mention is if you're an Acid Bath song, if you're an Acid Bath fan, sorry, approaching this reunion wanting them to play like deep cuts off of this album, I'm sorry. I got news for you. I don't think that's probably gonna happen. Whether it be Dax's vocals and where it's at, or we're really maybe even the band members are at. Maybe they're just not as interested in playing music off of this right now. But um, the fact that they still close with Dr. Seuss is dead to me means that they know what the fans want and know that they had to play something that really brought the extremity and the intensity, and they fucking closed with it, man. That was just insane. And honestly, the biggest surprise of the evening was just Dax's vocals. He, of course, stood there like, it was just yesterday that he was, in his 20s with hand in pocket, swaying and screaming. And he didn't miss a beat, man. He was so on point. His screams were just throat shredding. It was impressive to watch. Like him screaming through Hagen and Dr. Seuss was just amazing. Um, yeah, they did. I mean, the whole time I had to check myself at the door a little bit about halfway through the set. Like as a fan, I was starting to be like, what's going on? Where's the Jezebel? Where's the finger painting to the insane? And I had to be like, all right, calm down, Logan. Just enjoy what's in front of you and enjoy the fact that these members they're back performing for the first time in 28 years. And it's awe-inspiring that they still pulled it off and made it work, and you know was worth all the hype for sure. I left with a smile on my face, indeed, and it was a great night, great set list. Um, I want to say, I Hate God opened the night that I was at, and they just did a great job. I I love I Hate God. Expect a I Hate God stream at some point because it's gonna happen. Their discography's a favorite of mine. So unfortunately for me, the merch line there was insane. Throughout the whole night, it was like backed up past the bathrooms and stuff. So um for those of you who are going in the future, either plan to miss an opening, the opening band to get to merch, or be okay not picking up Acid Bath merch. And that was the decision that I made. Was I was okay not having Acid Bath merch, just so I could, experience the concert a bit more. Because the line was insane, and the wait had to have been crazy too. Thankfully, though, I Hate God was there. They killed it. Always a great live band. Always phenomenal set list. And I was able to pick up their latest vinyl pressing of Preaching the Infinite Message too. So this is on there. Take His Knee to Records. And cool. I like the song. Cool pressing too. So uh, fun compilation from I Hate God, and something I'm glad to have from them. Uh, yeah, that's. I'm gonna still buy an Acid Bath shirt either online from them, or there's a record store here in New Orleans called The Mushroom that always sells cool like Acid Bath shirts. So I might go there to get it. But yeah, for me, I wanted to be more present during the concert and not have to wait in the line for anything more than a beer, and Also, any chance to support I Hate God. So this is a cool pressing of this compilation. Um, yeah. So there we go. That's kind of all I got to say about Acid Bath, man. It was phenomenal. It was probably one of my favorite concerts I've been to in a bit. And it's the music, the overall hype of it, the people that were there, the overall experience. Um, it's yeah, it's awesome. So, dude, Cowboy, cheers, man. So do you have a history of nomadic behavior? Hey, God, is that what you're saying? If you do, you got two routes I'd recommend. Either their previous self-titled album from 2014, I Hate God. That one is honestly a lot more energetic than History, or Dope Sick. I don't want to spoil it, but that's a phenomenal I Hate God album. It has the most dynamics between them at their most punk and them at their most like slowed down and Black Sabbath doomy. So well said, Evan. Honestly, you you should be the one hosting the stream because yeah, you could just feel it. It was just such a genuine warmth, and the response from the fans and everything since then has been nothing but warmth and love. It's probably been one of the most positive metal experiences I've been a part of, and it's been really cool to see. Everyone from the band to the fans have just, you know, given it all back. And I hope um, Mike, Dax, and Sammy are feeling all that love and that success that they never got back in the 90s and are just reveling in the fact that their music is stands the test of time and stands alone and is a unique experience. So yeah, I I gotta end the stream, of course, with my top five favorite Acid Bath songs. For those of you still watching, let me know what your favorite Acid Bath songs are. I'm always curious. Number one for me, "Bleed Me an Ocean." Number two, "Venus Blue." Absolute. So those two songs alone, as I mentioned, they're spine chilling, um, beautiful, catchy, and dark all at the same time. Number three, Dr. Seuss is Dead. Number four, Pagan Terrorism Tactics. What a great opener. Um, so much energy and that hard rock element. And then number five has to be the most fucked up acid bath song out there. Cassie Eats Cockroaches. So dark, so bleak, you know, great, great stuff. Yeah, so there we go. That was that's acid bath for you. Acid bath and then some. So for those of you who stuck around, man, I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad I was able to do this because Acid Bath have been a special band for me. Seeing them live was a very special experience. Really, following the career of all of these musicians has been incredible, and just glad I was able to share it and have cool people in the chat while doing it. Evan with Jezebel, Cassie, yes, very nice, dude. Definitely got the kite string heavy there, but yeah, the blue is what a such an underrated song. That could have been in the top five for sure. But yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it. Fun time. I appreciate you all for joining. Um, yeah, cheers. Drink a beer. Listen to good New Orleans sludge metal. All right, take it easy, guys.